Pasaron 20 años del estreno de Malcolm en el medio y hablé con el director de fotografía de casi toda la serie. Me contó que estuvo desde el principio hasta más o menos la sexta o séptima temporada, que fue cuando lo despidieron, pero me habló desde cómo fue que nació esta idea, cómo fue que se inspiraron en muchas escenas, cuánto hubo de tomas reales, por ejemplo, de Bryan Cranston, cómo era trabajar con los niños y un millón de cosas más en este informe sobre Malcolm en el medio.
We now return to Mira Akien and Contré with our latest interview.
It was probably the one comedy that I've ever worked on where I laughed at the joke more than once sometimes.
You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now, and you're not so big.
Basically, the whole show is based on Linwood Boomer's family.
Yeah.
All of those characters are derived from his own family, and he grew up here in Northern California. I would hear writers talk about that for years that he talked about this show, and finally it got picked up. It's just the style of the show to not have laughter. I would oftentimes go to panels and whatnot and show segments of the show, and people laughed. They laughed in the right places. It was. And the other thing is there were scenes that would go on for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute with no dialogue. But it was just physical comedy, and people, the secret to comedy is get people in trouble. They were all great kids, without a doubt. Frankie was only 13, but there was an interesting transition.
And they wouldn't bother making it forbidden. There wasn't something totally bitching on the other side. Wow. I can't find a flaw in his logic.
Their voices changed really fast.
Yeah.
And because we did these, clip shows where they would put together a show out of previous shows. It was called the clip show, and run these funny segments. And it was just fun to watch, have their little squeaky little voices, and all of a sudden, they changed their voices.
Help! Oh, my knee.
Welcome home, son.
Thanks, Dad.
A family that's flawed, right? But the bottom line, they all loved each other, right? In the story. And I felt like that they all carried that through in their personal lives as well. I never saw any kind of personality clashes or anything like that, which I've seen with adults.
Yeah.
But I never saw anything like that. It was, and I think everybody considered it was just fun to do.
I'm not gonna give you the satisfaction. I'm not gonna get mad.
My favorite times with Chris Messens was when he was in the military school, and the other time was when he was in Alaska.
Yeah.
So to me, that was some of the best scenes that we ever did with him.
Okay, Willie, you want it? You got it!
And to some degree when he was in Arizona. But I really liked the first two scenarios the best.
They told me to get truffles. I don't know why, but my parents tell me this is going to be a very special Thanksgiving.
He in many ways, he was my favorite kid. He was great to work with. He was just really a fine actor as well. He did a lot of movies as well in between episodes of Malcolm in the Middle. And he was kind of funny looking too, so that kind of helped the comedy.
Can you buy me a Herbie?
No, they're too expensive. Maybe. Ask me again in 4 seconds.
Can you buy me a Herbie, please?
He was just great to work with. All of them, they came to work, they knew their lines, they got it done. Because, we were on a pretty rough schedule. In fact, the first half season, we had to shoot everything in 5 days, which is, because the kids, they can only work 3 hours.
Yeah.
And so we had to, we would shoot the kids in the morning and then the adults in the afternoon. And but finally, when we got picked up for good, then we got 6 days, which made it a lot easier because it it was a mad tear just to get it done because you know, the style of the show was wide angle and close, so you know, we had a pretty heavy schedule and a lot of shots to get in a day.
I'd really like a Herbie doll. I know it's expensive, but I don't ask for a lot, and I've been very good lately. I want it! I want it! I want it!
Do you know why Eric quit acting? Because I think he's the only one that stopped like getting involved with the business.
You know, I mean, I don't know if this is true. I've heard he got involved in drugs, but that's, you know, I don't have any real evidence of that. He did not show up for the reunion in 2012. He did not show up for the reunion in this year.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what happened because I always thought he was the best kid. His mother was Swedish. I mean, he spoke perfect Swedish. They had a restaurant in Boston, a Mexican restaurant, if you can believe that, in Boston. So I don't know. I mean, it's just a rumor. But, you know, he has mysteriously disappeared from the scene.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's got to be pretty rough on a kid, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I read the paper once that Frankie was suicidal. You know, when you're so popular at a very young age and you're on top of the world, I mean, you've never known anything else.
Yeah.
So you never really have experienced real disappointment, real failures, that sort of thing. And I think it's a big shock, you know, all of a sudden. You know, it's kind of like me being fired all of a sudden.
Yeah.
There's nothing there and nobody cares, right? I worked with him as a director. I mean, you know, he's really the consummate actor-director. I mean, he really understands the language of film. And, I mean, and he's a passionate guy. I mean, he understands all the nuances of acting. He understands how to put a scene together. I mean, what's to make it funny? You know, he's just really easily one of the greatest actors I feel like I have ever had the privilege to work with. Bryan Cranston was brilliant. You know, I mean, a lot of people considered Jane Kaczmarek, and she was the star of the show because she was the mother, and I can tell you a story about that. But I found that over time that he had the more difficult acting choices, that he could really do these characters. You know, he would play, you know, Mini-Me, and, you know, then he was the painter in the garage. I mean, he really had a lot of facets to him where, you know, basically Jane Kaczmarek was a screamer. And, you know, and the funny thing about it is that whenever the show tested, it always tested poorly before it went to the air. And the main complaint was that the women thought that she was too harsh.
I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to so much as sense your presence. For crying out loud, Reese, there's a mirror right there!
They restructured the first 9 episodes to try to make her look softer. But once the show got on the air, everybody loved Lois. You know, it was completely different from what they had been told, basically, in the testing of the show. It was just a complete opposite. Those were real bees, I can tell you that, and he did get stung. That was very early. That was the first season, the first half season. Yeah, that was, you know, I mean, that was the other thing about him. I mean, he was just, he had no fear, you know. I mean, he did the bees. I mean, we did the bowling episode. I mean, he bowled his own ball. I mean, he hit strike after strike after strike, you know. And, you know, in the skating episode.
I want to ask you about that too.
You know, I mean, he just could do anything. You know, and I'm sure that he's a very, you know, he makes it look easy, but I'm sure he rehearsed it and practiced it and made it, you know, because he really takes his job seriously.